Hey everyone, it's Michael GoosebumpsFan. I hope you're doing well today. I have another thing like Goosebumps review, video thing to make for you, recommendation, whatever. Not that everything is like Goosebumps videos or recommendation, it's just kind of me discussing something that's like Goosebumps, the R.L. Stine book series that I love to death. I have a whole channel based around, I own every book from Goosebumps. And God willing, I'm going to own every single one that ever comes out. Anyway, today I'm going to be talking about The Four Skulls of Jonathan Drake, a 1959 horror film. It's a black and white flick. I watched this for free on Amazon Prime, and it was really good. Really, really good. There's some things I have to talk about in this review that are kind of things you have to talk about with black and white films sometimes, mainly with the horror genre. A lot of these movies are accused of being racist. And I don't necessarily think all of them are actually racist. I think they're kind of like sometimes saying things that people interpret that way and don't really like it. They assume because there is a bad guy that might be an Indian or whatever, they might be a villain, and that people are saying immediately, everybody in the movie is saying everybody that's an Indian is a villain. That's not the case here, and it's not the case in this movie. And I really, really like this flick. I think it has a lot to offer. It's really fun. It's really enjoyable. It's creepy at times. Has some really good atmosphere to it, which is one of my favorite things about classic black and white horror films. If you love Goosebumps and you like kind of family time of movies and stuff that are kind of like Goosebumps, if you like black and white horror films that have a little bit of a voodoo feel to them, this movie's going to be for you. You're going to like it if you like that whole voodoo type of thing. There is a Goosebumps book, of course, called How I Got My Shrunken Head. This film has to do a lot with shrunken heads. It is... Excuse me. I gotta be honest with you, I was kind of mortified with some of the things I saw in this film. Not that it's extremely grotesque, but compared to most black and white horror films I've loved that I've seen in the last 10 years or so. Not that I've been watching everything I could get my hands on, but the ones I have watched, I'm kind of shocked with some of the things I've come across. This one is extremely surprising. Anybody who could tell me they like kind of slashery type stuff and don't like black and white horror films, you should watch this. You really should. There was some pretty surprisingly shocking things I saw in this flick. I don't know how common it is to see black and white horror films or thrillers or anything that would have so much kind of the things you've seen here. Of course, this is borderline the 60s. It's 1959. I really, really, really enjoyed this. I thought it was such a great flick. The Four Skulls of Jonathan Drake. What is this about? Essentially, there's a fellow named Jonathan Drake whose brother was just murdered. And there's a curse on their family, the Drake family curse they always talk about, where for some reason every man in this family at some point in their life get brutally murdered, and then by the time they have their funeral, their head is missing from their corpse. And nobody knows what's happening with that. But there's also it's kind of hard to explain this particular thing because I'm not entirely familiar with it because we don't really see this much nowadays. They have like a monument within a graveyard that is specifically for their family. I cannot remember what that thing is called. It's not really a tomb. It's something like that, just some kind of monument where you put specifically your family's bodies in that, and you might have like 3 family members in 3 different parts of a wall, you know? So if you know what I'm talking about, it's that. I just don't know what it's called. I don't think it's a mausoleum, is it? What is a mausoleum? I don't know. Anyway, so in this particular place, this is that family's thing. They also have a cabinet that for whatever reason, every once in a while, a skull will pop up in there after a family member has just been killed and buried inside of this wall thing at the graveyard monument thing that they have. This cabinet that's locked, mind you, the whole building is locked up. Somehow somebody's sneaking inside of this place, managing to open that locked cabinet that only one person has the family key to, and able to sneak the latest skull inside of there. But why is it just a skull if somebody was just killed and their corpse had their head stolen from them? Mind you, that's part of the more grotesque parts of this movie. This film, basically the villain of the film, has an Indian working for him as well. And this Indian actually, if you've ever seen a shrunken head, they typically sew the mouth shut. I don't know why they do that. It might be coming up some kind of weird spiritualism, paganism nonsense. But if you've ever seen a shrunken head, you see those ties of string through the person's mouth. That's the shrunken head. And in this movie, the Indian guy that's being told to go here and go there to kill these different people in the Drake family by the main bad guy, who's just kind of a weird guy with circles around his eyes and stuff. Really great performance from that guy. I don't know who he is, but he's fantastic. So is the guy who's the Indian as well. They're all really, really great. Everybody was great in this flick. But I'll get there in a second. That big, tall Indian guy, who's really lanky, really kind of scary, the way he's so imposing, the way he walks around and stuff. He's told to go out, he's the one doing all the assassinations on people, stealing their heads and whatnot. He actually has his mouth sewn shut. And there's something about seeing a regular person with that shrunken head, mouth sewn together thing that just gets to you when you see it for the first time in this movie. It really threw me off, because it's even on the poster. You know, when I went to Amazon Prime to watch this the other night, just out of curiosity, just to see what it was, when I had just watched The Black Sleep for the first time, which I also reviewed right before this video, in case you want to check that out. When I went to watch that, I saw this as a recommendation. I marked it. I did not know anything about it. This title sounded cool, which it is. I really like the Four Skulls of Jonathan Drake title. Seeing a regular person walk around, even though it's on the poster, and I saw it on the Amazon Prime poster, but didn't really process what I was looking at, seeing a regular human walk around with the sewn mouth shut thing is just eerie. That guy is so imposing as a villain. He's so scary. The idea that he's like sneaking into rooms and getting people when they're like trying to go to sleep, or when they're just like faint of heart and stuff. For example, the main guy, Jonathan Drake, our main protagonist, sorta kinda, at the beginning of the movie, he's much older. And his daughter comes with him into the town, and now that he's realized his brother has just been murdered too, he's like, you know, I'm the next one in line for this curse. I'm the last male in my family. So he's kind of in panic mode. Everybody's trying to keep an eye on him, but he's also very faint of heart, and he's an older man. So he's kind of staying bedridden a little bit, and people are trying to keep an eye on him. The doctor's kind of staying in the house too, but outside of that room. There's a lot of tension that builds there in such a good, smart way. And the daughter being involved in all this is pretty crazy too. Not as a character, she's not crazy, but just the situation she's in is crazy. I'm watching her react to these things. Her worry about her father. It reminds me a lot of like the Bela Lugosi Dracula film, like how, is it Mia? Whoever the girl is that Dracula tries to like get the most in that film. I think her name is Mia, I'm pretty sure. I always forget. Reminds me a lot of that kind of character. But then you have a detective that gets brought into the film to try to solve what's going on here. Who are the people who are taking people's heads, these corpses? Because it's a crime, and he wants to find out. His investigation, not that I've seen many black and white horror films or black and white thrillers or anything. I'm just now getting into this in the last 5 years or so, more and more. The more that I watch these things, the more I find them fascinating. I love black and white horror films and cop movies and thrillers. I think they're really great. If you haven't seen the Bulldog Drummond movies, you're missing out big time too. Great thrillers if you like cop movies. But the more I watch this black and white classic horror genre, subgenre, whatever, I'm really, really loving how exciting and interesting certain things can be. For example, in this movie, the investigation that the cop, or detective, whatever he is going through, by the way, he's very good as a performer. I think his acting performance here is very good, that actor. His particular investigation he goes through, I don't think I've ever seen anything like it in black and white classic horror. So if you have seen some of the things I'm talking about, which I'm not going to spoil for you because this is a spoiler-free review, it's more of a recommendation video than anything. If you've seen anything like that, please recommend it to me. Tell me about it in the comments. I'd love to know if this is the first film to do some of the certain things he came across in his investigation, like the no footprints thing. That was really interesting stuff. There's so much of a supernatural feel to a lot of this movie that really keeps it interesting. It really keeps it really fascinating, very creepy at times. I had a blast watching The Four Skulls of Jonathan Drake. It just has so much going for it. It's very eerie. Again, the atmosphere is really the thick tension that builds in this. The music is good. The performances are great all around. Again, that bad guy and the other bad guy that's his little henchman Indian guy, they're both scary. They're both very eerie. Every time somebody comes into an encounter with either of those guys, which people in the town don't think that doctor is the one doing these murders. You don't really find out his motivation for why until the finale, but I'll tell you right now, not that I'm going to spoil his motivation. And I thought I knew most of it about halfway through the film because of certain things that have been said. By the end of this movie, I was in so much shock about what had happened and how horrific the end, not horrific, but like how crazy the ending of this movie is. Just bizarre, wild, insane, over-the-top stuff. I could watch that ending of this movie and immediately hear people saying it was a racist film, and it totally wasn't. It totally, absolutely was not. I thought it was extremely creative and a finale. It didn't make a whole lot of scientific sense, but it was extremely creative. I really liked that. I feel like if you liked the movie Get Out, if I'm being honest with you, a lot of Get Out came out of this. It seems to me. Different cultures that are talked about in the two different movies, but a lot of Get Out is done here. You know, the Bible talks about there's nothing new under the sun. There's a reason why it says that. There's films like this that existed way before Get Out, and for whatever reason are completely just not talked about, not discussed. This is really good. A really good flick. I really dug it. Again, extremely grotesque. A lot of brutal stuff in here. Not like violent stuff, but like, don't be surprised if somebody opens a cabinet in this film or something and they find like a head, like a chopped off severed head in there. Not that it's extremely bloody. It could literally just be a head sitting there, no blood seen. It's just something about that that's unnerving. It's the uncanny valley of seeing somebody's head in a cabinet or something. It's unnerving. There's a process in here too that shows the shrunken head process as done in a film. That was unnerving. That was something that got under my skin. I am totally going to hunt down a copy of this movie. They're pretty cheap running on eBay, from what I understand. Again, if I were you, get a Prime membership. There's a lot of stuff like this on there from Amazon Prime's memberships. This is really solid. I really highly recommend, especially if you're a big Goosebumps fan, if you like shrunken head stuff or voodoo stuff or supernatural stories. If you like that stuff, if you like black and white classical horror, really, if you like anything that's kind of like Goosebumps or what it's based on, you'll like this. It's really solid. It's really eerie, and I had a blast. It got under my skin. I don't even have the words, man. It's such a creepy movie. The best possible way. It can be scary at times. Not like extremely scary, but it can be scary in certain ways, in certain facets when you think about certain things. It's amazing how, again, the creativity behind classical horror like this, they don't have to show people getting their heads chopped off. Just the idea that it happened, and then what's done with that is just unnerving. You know, it works. It works really well. Anyway, The Four Skulls of Jonathan Davis, or Drake. Where'd I get Davis from? The 1959 horror film. Have you guys seen this? What did you think about it? Put your thoughts and comments down below. I would love to hear what you have to say. This is an hour and 10-minute long film, and it flies by it, but it feels so filled to the brim with so much happening in it. Very basic storytelling, but still feels like there's a lot going on here psychologically, a lot of character stuff happening, characters I can have more sympathy for than other ones. The villains are great. It's really fun. I cannot recommend it enough. If I had to rate it on a 5-star basis, I would easily give The Four Skulls of Jonathan Drake probably a 4 out of 5 stars. It was really good. I highly recommend this if you haven't seen it. It's not something that's going to make you think about your existence or something like the way The Twilight Zone does. But is it creative? Absolutely. Absolutely, dude. There's no getting around that. It's one of probably the most creative black and white horror films I've ever seen in my life. When it comes to the practical effects and whatnot, they look good. They look really good. I love that. So, yeah. There are certain effects that are done with film stuff, like splicing certain things, try to cause certain effects. For example, there's floating skulls that haunt people in the film at certain points. Not like real skulls, but like maybe hallucinations they're having that are all kind of common. You could argue it's part of the curse, you could argue it's probably not. That's unnerving looking. As weird and basic as it is, it's kind of laughable in some ways, but it's still something eerie about it. There's something great and charming about these old movies. There's something really great and charming that I think my generation have missed out on. I really do. I think the Goosebumps generation have really missed out on the roots of what caused Goosebumps to even come into existence by R.L. Stein. The stuff that influenced him when he was a kid like this. Not that he said that he loved this movie or anything. I'm just saying it's stuff like this that are the kind of things that he liked when he was a kid, that got him into this kind of storytelling. Anyway, The Four Skulls of Jonathan Drake. Are you going to watch it after my recommendation for it? What do you think about it? If you have seen it before, put all your thoughts and comments down below. I'd love to hear everything you have to say about this awesome little flick. I cannot believe that I have never heard people talk about this movie. I'm just dumbfounded by that. You ought to be ashamed of yourself, internet culture. Anyway, what are your thoughts? Put them down below again. Thank you for watching. May the Lord Jesus Christ bless you guys today. 4 out of 5 stars for me. I kind of get close to wanting to give it a 5, but I can't do it. I don't think it's that perfect, but it's good. It's really great, honestly. 4 out of 5 stars. What did you think? Put them down below. God bless you guys again. Goodbye.